the end, we're all gonna be dead pretty soon. So we're just, using the time we've got to do something that seems to matter to us. That's it. So in the end, nothing is really important, in my opinion. I'm a very fatalist person. I really believe that I don't believe in free will, and I don't think anyone really makes a choice in life. I think we've had a path written for us, and we're following it right now.
So you are deterministic in your worldview? Yeah. Okay, then you say that there is no free will. And Satan is described as the freest of wills. And what do you think about that? What do you think about that common description as the ultimate free will being the Satan?
I don't think it's that at all. But that's a really complicated issue because just like many things, Satan means something different to most people.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's such thing as freedom or free will. That's something that's very it's really the way a slave would think to try to see freedom. But since it's all been written, there's no freedom, there's no slaves, there's just what's gonna happen, what's bound to happen.
So do you feel any kind of responsibility about your actions when you see the world as determined as you see right now? Do you think that your actions...
I tend to have a distance, to put a distance between me and everything that happens in the world. So I tend to be emotionless about any major event that includes something that would change the life of many, maybe end the life of many. I just see that as, if you look at the history of the Earth and even the history of the human race, our own civilization, everything we take for granted is just, it was born yesterday and it will be destroyed tomorrow.
What have we done to reach this point?
Your previous creations and previous albums, from what the band started, they were heavily influenced by Order of Nine Angels, and they describe Satan as being a physical being that is supposed to be worshipped, and if I'm not mistaken right now.
When it comes to that influence, it's mostly our singer that's involved with this philosophy. I know a little about them and I've read a little, but I don't feel I'm competent enough to really discuss the Order of Nine Angels right now. So at some point you'd have to talk to him.
So,
but what I can say is that he's been close and involved with this order or cult, but he's been following his own path as well.
yeah.
And that's one thing that I noticed about this thing is that they don't do meetings, they don't do discussions. It's very individualistic, which I think is an interesting take on the thing.
So there is a kind of dichotomy in your band, like your worldviews are each different and each personal, and how that affects your process of creation and process of expression.
Well, it's pretty simple actually. I do. The work is divided in two, clearly divided, and which means whatever my part of the job is, MKM won't really interfere, and whatever he does, I don't really feel I need to interfere. And this kind of collaboration has been pretty fruitful so far, so it's been working pretty well. So I do all the music, all the production, from the demos, recording, mixing, mastering, and he will take care of the lyrics, the image, anything that's visual. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting way of working. I've never done this in any other band before, but it's really interesting having everything divided, and in the end we just put everything together, and it's the way it is, and we just leave it like that. There's a certain form of it's pretty spontaneous as well. It just needs to be. Almost all the songs are first shots, and usually when we record the vocals at my studio, he does everything in one take, and it's just happens.
Yeah, and like within the band, are you working on understanding each other, like understanding what they're trying to say, what is the general message of the work of art that you are doing? Is there like absolute clearance within the band?
I don't know about that. We don't really talk too much. To be fair, the three other guys who have been in the band for less time have a limited impact, and they do their own part in the job, especially live. They add something to the sound. But when it comes to the message, they don't really. I mean, as far as Aosoth is concerned, the message is all MKM, and most of his lyrics are actually very personal, and it's often pretty hard to really understand what he meant, and he won't explain it. So there's a part of Aosoth that kept from anyone else, even the guys within the band. It's pretty. There's a paradox here, because he's a singer, he's a frontman, but at the same time he doesn't like being seen. So, and the same goes with his lyrics. He does lay out very personal things, but he doesn't want people to really see them. It's a pretty complicated person.
And how do you think that connects with your audience? Like you have a mystery on your side, that is the lyrics which are like hidden from everyone, and even you, as I understand. How do you think that the audience, what do they feel being kept information from them? Like, let's say a devoted fan or someone who enjoys the music, but he is or she is affected by that lack of information.
We've come across a couple very devoted fans, and these guys actually managed to, for example, on our last album, the lyrics were included in the LP, but in Braille. And one guy from Quebec actually got the Braille sheet and got it translated, and he analyzed everything, and he tried to to really understand as much as possible. And I think that's the best kind of devotion you can see. And that's my opinion. I think it's interesting to have things that are not clear in any work of art, because it means that the reader or the listener will have to make his own opinion about it, and at some point he's gonna have to, maybe something in the lyrics will actually reflect something in his own perception of things, and I think it's way more interesting this way than having everything explained for the fans.
Of course.
So I like the way it is. I like the way that we have hidden things. We even had like a weird track on the last album that was actually 2 tracks which lasted the same amount of time, and we left it without any more information. It was instrumental, but with movie samples, and few people actually understood what it was, but it was 2 melodies, and if you put them on top of each other, you get a third melody. And so when we released the last EP with Agonia Records, we included a version with the 2 things on top. And I really like these kind of things, hiding stuff in there, and if the devoted fan finds it, it's good for them, but it's fine if most don't. Same goes with the lyrics, same goes with the visuals. It doesn't have to be understood by anyone.
And how do you view this doesn't have to be understood by everyone? Do you filter your audiences like this? Like, do you filter who is going to be more important for you as a listener, because you are expressing your inner self through to the world, and someone is going to listen to it.
Maybe in a way you're right. I've never thought about it this way, but on some level maybe we try to filter. But in the end, we mostly do the music for ourselves. When we play shows like this, there was a really interesting energy in the crowd today. Most of us felt it this way, and we're enjoying the energy we get from the crowd and all that. But how each individual feels while listening to our music is not relevant. It's bigger than that, and it's, even if no one listened to it, I think we'd still be doing it the same way, because it has to be done this way, and that's what matters.
You don't have a choice in this matter.
Well, there's never a choice.
Well, choice is an illusion.
It's my opinion.
How do you think your worldview and your musical expression and your art expression were influenced by something that happened in the past? Like, I would think that you were not born as deterministic as you are right now. So my question is, what were the influences that led you to this moment?
Speaking for myself, I'd say personal life experiences where I used to be an idealistic person. I used to really think that there was a way of doing things properly and a kind of code of honor and everything. And at some point I realized that lots of things just happen whether you're doing your best or not, or there's it's hard to explain, plus it's really personal stuff.
Yeah, how do you think your expression and your art makes it something that is valuable by people? Because it apparently is. What do you think?
People like in Aosoth, you mean?
No, people valuing Aosoth. Like distinguishing it in the myriad of other bands. Like let's say there's about 600 or 700 different bands in France that are active, and that's quite a competition.
I never thought about it as a competition, to be honest. And I think the bands that are thinking this way are already on the wrong path, or if there's such thing as a wrong path. But I think people probably like the fact that we're visually elegant, and I'm talking about the album covers and everything. We are always trying to release quality products that are vinyls with a decent thickness to it, good artwork, good production, I guess. Well, we try to do it as good as possible. And I'm guessing it sounds, you can hear in our music that we're truly invested in what we do, and we're doing it for genuine reasons, because it feels right in a way to do it this way. I don't think we've ever been trying to do something. We've just been doing things the most naturally possible. That's what I like about Aosoth. I don't really know about people. It's hard to say, because I've noticed that like there's lots of many of the hipster community that seem to like us, and we seem to have a following of American hipsters, for example, apparently. And I don't get this movement. I don't get this culture. I don't get anything about them. So I don't really know why they would like us. The load off your chest once you accept that everything's been done in advance and you can't do anything about it, just follow your path. Yeah, I agree on the fact that time is probably an illusion, and this is pretty. This is a follow-up to my idea that everything is written. Everything is probably already done. We're just fragments, memories, but I often think that we're all already dead. And it's just like you see stars that shine but are already dead. Everything on Earth, I think, is by definition it's finished. I tend to mostly live in the future or the past, but I tend to be distant from everything that happens to me. So, and it's actually a pretty shitty thing, because I tend not to enjoy the moment ever, because I have a little too much distance towards most things.
Doesn't it feel like hiding?
Maybe, somehow, I guess. I don't know. It's not something I control.
Okay. And this distance from the present moment, like in any direction, how do you feel when you are composing the new song or
That's interesting.
composing
Actually.
the music?
Yeah.
How does it feel then?
That's interesting because whenever I write music, especially for Aosoth, it feels like it's well. Many people think there's a divine aspect to inspiration, and I really believe, literally, it's something that comes from somewhere else or some. I don't know. What I mean is, whenever I write music, it feels like it's just like a form of trance, which is by definition a distance from the conscious mind. So, for example, that 14-minute song that's on the fourth album, Ritual Marks of Penitence, I remember the day I recorded the demo of it, and so I wrote the whole song in. Took me, I think it took me 4 hours to program the drums and lay down 2 guitars. And it's a pretty long song, but as soon as I started it, it just felt like okay, I know what I have to do, and at some point it just went autopilot, and almost from the start it was like, okay, that's the way it is. I took my guitar and I didn't have an idea of what I was gonna do, and it just happened. But at the same time, when I looked back at my watch once I was done, it was like, okay, what just happened? Just like when you're on drugs or drunk, and at some point you lose touch of what's going on, and you look at your watch and 6 hours have passed, and you're like, whoa. So it's pretty much what happened when I write music.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of distance, and it's very just, it comes, it happens.
Is it always like that rapid trance-like process that is just comes through?
Almost every time. On the 5th album, which we're gonna record this summer, I think, I tried to polish things up a little bit, which means I wrote most of the riffs and then took a second look at it to rearrange things. So it's a little new, but mostly all the albums from Aosoth were done this way. The second album we released, Ashes of Angels, was written, recorded, and completely produced in 2 weeks. Everything was just, and yeah, I wouldn't change it. I think it has to be this way to sound like the way we sound. That's
To be
the
sincere.
touch. Yeah. Well, to be Aosoth, I think it's a specific way of almost always taking a first shot and almost keeping it intact.
Is it the same kind of process with the lyrics also? Or do you know?
I'm not sure. He takes a lot of time, but he's very. He doesn't like to talk too much about his creative process. That's a part that's always going to be hidden.
What about black metal then? What about Aosoth and black metal?
I think we are a black metal band. Um, most most of our influences are black metal.
And
And
why do you think is that?
feels uh, basically there are a few key albums that made me feel something that I now associate with black metal. I would say there's the third Bathory album, some Marduk albums, just for the raw intensity, violence, and obviously there's Death Stavanger, Si Monumentum Requieres Circumspice. This album really changed my perception of this whole scene and the way it could be done. So I'm trying whenever I write music. It's not a conscious thing, but I think I will always recreate something that's kind of in the same feeling as those bands, because that's the way I perceive black metal, and that's the music that I love, and I want to. I will naturally try to do music that's the music I would like to listen to.
Do you think there is a certain kind of spirituality or something that is behind what you see, what you touch, and what you physically feel?
Well, you're talking about the religious feeling.
No, not the religious feeling, but is there something in your life that you perceive as being spiritual, not physical, like completely not physical?
That's what I would call the religious feeling. Like, wow, it's a gut feeling that there is a higher power surrounding us, and yes, I do. Of course, I mean, well, it's not obvious, but. At some point, I grew up as an atheist when I was a teenager. My family was very much into the Republican values and left me away from religion. So I didn't grow up a Christian, which allowed me to read the Bible later with a very distant look, yeah. So, but even reading the sacred scriptures and everything helped me build my own spiritual views, and it's, you know, having this distance allows you to judge things more evenly and pick up things in different books, different ideologies, and sometimes you find one notion in one of these books that will strike a nerve and you will feel connected to something through that.
And do you think this higher power, does it have some kind of agenda? Is it conscious? And let's say a Christian or a Muslim, every basically a religion describe their gods as someone who is conscious and maybe even self-aware and has an agenda, has something to do. What do you think about, like, how would you describe your higher power? Like, what do you think? Does it have something to do with the what we perceive and what we are we governed?
I think trying to figure that out would be just like an ant trying to figure out a human. And when the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians are talking about God's will, God's plan, it's just most of the times a man's plan to, rule a bunch of other men. Although I find really interesting things in the Bible and the Quran and everything, but what religious or organized religion has done is just politics. They've drifted far away from spirituality a long time ago, almost from the start.
So what would be the most spiritual thing that is going through the world right now, like in modern times?
Like an organized movement, you mean?
Not organized, maybe something like some people describe Satanism as being
Okay, whatever.
something that is spiritual right now, that doesn't have an order, or doesn't have something to do with politics. But
I think whatever it is, it would need to be spirituality in its purest form is probably always a matter of one person connecting to something. I don't think men need to unite in any way to reach. Well, that would be a debate with some of the movements, but I think spirituality should be one person perceiving the divine.
And are you grateful about your place in time, in life, and do you feel some kind of allowance?
No, there's good, there's bad in life. It's just the way it is. But once again, I have a distance towards this. But no one did me any favor by putting me here. I wouldn't see it as a favor. It's just the way it is.
Well, you still describe there being some kind of spiritual power that is going through, and in that sense, that power is the absolute.
Yeah, I would see myself as a very small part of a very big thing, and something that's going to be washed away at some point, and something else will come to replace it.
And have you ever thought about is your worldview closely expressed in your music, in like when you are listening to your own songs? How do you feel about them?
I believe that the music that's written in Aosoth transcribes this feeling of close to nothingness, facing the eternal and the great and it's hard to describe, but a shapeless, ever-changing thing that's absorbing you and ever, you know what I mean? Or
I kind of understand, but I have a question right now about shapeless and being ever-changing, but at the same time being determined and still. So there's a question there that I want to ask.
when I say ever-changing and everything, I'm talking about like a literal image seen from the point of view of a person at some point, and that's how I would picture the great, the divine, or an incarnation, or a representation of the divine. Something that's just like what an ant would see if it saw a man. Something you can't really grasp to because it's so huge and great. You know what I mean? Or
it's I guess it's similar like with my personal views. Like I perceive an image, like which is still and complete, and there's nothing more.
This is drifting very far away from music.
Well, it's not only music.
Yeah, sure.
It's never only music. Every band who state that it's only about the music, they are lying.
Sure.
It's art in general. It's not something so narrow.
Aosoth in its current form is 5 individuals that have different views on most things, but are connected by a way we have a distance towards society and the mundane, and a way, some form of craziness maybe. That some form of madness we have. There's a way we represent death, but is death negative? Not really, not always. It's a part of the circle, it's, the cycle. It's a natural thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't think we're a negative band more than a positive band. We're just what we are.
So, is there some kind of influence in death for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. We're all obsessed by death, but most people are, to be honest. We just decide to transcend this obsession and make it into art, because the religious feeling and the connection to the divine is most of the times through a perception we have of death. I often picture the divine and death as two very close notions in some ways.
So, do you think there's divinity in death?
I think so. It's one way of representing the divine, and divine can be one way of representing death.
Well, it has like it always been the modern humans are commonly defined from the point they started to have funerals. And that's interesting, because we basically started to celebrate death, and it is a celebration.
Yeah. Lithuania has been a very interesting country to visit, and hopefully we can walk around. But it was a pleasure being here. I saw a few people praying in front of the stage, which was really interesting. It's always a sign that we're doing something right, I guess. So, yeah, it was very pleasant being here.